Something I have seen across the internet, across all social media, is that most artists put their value based off of the skill and proficiency in the art that they're able to make and how much effort that they put into it. And they use that metric when they compare themselves to others. I would argue that art's value is way more important when you think about the story, the narrative, the emotion, or the function that the artwork serves. And think about it, this is really not that far-fetched. Look at a film or a TV show. The most important thing is that it sells and makes money, right? Look at a video game like League of Legends. The important thing is that it gets continuous new players, because that is going to be probably the best metric of how well the game is going to do in all other areas. The artwork is a tiny fraction of what it takes to do that, and the art skill is an even smaller fraction. The job of the artwork is to entice the viewer, the potential customer. Hey, this game looks cool, I want to check it out. So the artwork needs to perform a task at explaining a character, conveying the mood and the vibe of the story and the narrative behind that character, of the actual environment of the game. If it's a more realistic 3D game, when you're looking at a film, the concept art has to develop an idea that the audience, when they're watching, can be instantly transcribed to them with the most minimal amount of stress. The less energy they can put forth in their brain to understand what is going on, what the concept is, who's the villain, who's the good guy, where's the story taking place, the faster that the viewer can understand that, the better. And the better the movie is going to do, and they're going to make more money. So the purpose of that art is to perform that task. It's not to wow the viewer with, man, this concept art is amazing. Look at these little tiny hairs on this character here that I'm seeing from this Disney film or Pixar film. They're there to watch the story and look at the big picture. If we look at it on the more intimate individual scale, online, when you share a piece of artwork, yes, some people can be amazed by how skilled it is. They can be amazed by just that wow factor, how beautiful and detailed it is. But what really gets people to stick around especially is when there's some sort of emotion or narrative behind that piece. I talked about this before in a video where I talked about the only 6 reasons that anyone could be interested in your art. It sounds very aggressive, but I truly believe if anyone is interested in what you have made, it's probably going to be for one of those reasons. And guess what? Art skill is only one of them. Now, sure, the skills that you have can help you with the others, like narrative. For example, the better you get at perspective, the easier it will be to be able to convince people of what's going on in the story that you're trying to tell. However, you can see right here on YouTube that that's not that necessary. There's plenty of amazing, successful animators that animate in only black and white in a very 2D fashion with very simple line work that can get millions of people to show up to watch their little short skit every single time without fail. I want to be clear, this is not something that's new. I really enjoyed Adam Duff's recent video at Lucid Pixel, his channel name here on YouTube, where he's talking about how art skill isn't going to be as important in the future with AI. I agree with many of the points he made in that video, but this is something that has been here since the beginning of time. Your skill with art has been secondary to what you can use that skill to do. It is such a huge problem today that so many artists don't see that, and it's a big reason for so many of the issues that we consistently struggle with. Here's another issue that I could make a whole video on, but I want to touch on here. We are so chronic at underselling ourselves and not marketing ourselves because, we're too humble or we're too grateful at the chance that we could just get to draw and make money, right? That's usually the reason that we give. But I believe a big part of it is because we just don't see the value. We see that, oh, my art skills are only here, or I'm enjoying this. We don't see the value of, I can bring somebody's idea to life and bring something that has no vision, that doesn't exist, that's not tangible, and make it tangible and make it be something that they can share with other people. That is a very, very important skill to have, and it's very useful and it's very marketable. But instead, we don't understand that that's the value, And so it's so easy for us to give in to whatever price we could possibly get for our work just because we're so happy to be able to get to do that. And it's so pervasive in the entire community that it's just become a standard. And to top it off, so many of us artists are marketing to other artists, which is the worst thing you could possibly do. Because if you've done anything online and tried to sell your work, you've learned this truth too, that artists don't buy art. I mean, all of us are trying to save our coins, right? Because we're underselling ourselves in the first place. We don't buy that much artwork. We're trying to make artwork. We're trying to learn, right? You can make a channel, a YouTube channel where you're just sharing your artwork, right? And you just show the image, the final image. Or you could make a channel helping people make their artwork. Guess which one is going to get you a lot more views? What we need to be doing is figuring out what kind of communities can we infiltrate and that we have knowledge in and that we have an understanding in, and then create art for those communities and shine there. I am on the Elden Ring subreddit, and consistently I see artworks that are so great at telling a story and being relatable to people, and they get thousands of upvotes. I have always done terribly on Reddit whenever I try to share things, and that just goes to show you skill level is not a thing that matters that much there. A lot of the things that do well are not that extremely high in skill level. They take maybe 1 to 2 years to get there from somebody who's just doodled in school before, if you give them a tablet. But they can nail that narrative and tug at those heartstrings when you see that person paint some of the most beloved characters in the actual game, like Raya. It just immediately connects with the viewer in that community, and it works. And I bet you if they had more stuff like that and they were selling stuff, they would be making sales from every single post that popped off. And you do that because you know your value in your work. If you believe that you're low value because you can't do enough work that can win this contest or get you this fancy job, and you're just not going to put yourself out there. But if you know your value is also just as much as in skill, if not more, the narrative that you can tell, again, the emotion you can get from somebody or they can feel, how relatable is it to that person, that can really take things further. Again, I've been binging this guy's channel, Naoki Saito. I love his channel. He has so many great ideas. And he talked about 3 things that make artwork do well on Twitter, but obviously it works well anywhere. And one of them was the hero work, which is basically that wow factor, that amazing thing that people want to share. But also, skill level does apply to that, right? Because if it's very low skill level, it's not going to be that wow factor thing. But it also applies to the other things, like, for example, the help artwork, which helps people with something that they're struggling with. If you have 0 skill, then you won't be able to do that. Also, to be honest, all you need to do is be better than somebody else to be able to teach them. Just at least 1 day's work better. You can teach them something and people will appreciate it. That's how I built my channel 4 years ago. But the thing that he pointed out across all of those different types of artworks is that it is that thing that keeps people coming back, that third artwork, the story narrative driven one, the one that makes people want to stick around to see what you do next. That is the thing that people don't understand and are wondering why they don't get follows. It's the one that can make the difference if you get a huge post that blows up and you get 10 followers versus 1,000 followers, because you have that narrative established already. And so many of the most popular artists today have a very clear narrative where it's very easy for someone to say, I like this so much. Oh, they do more. I don't want to miss out on the next one. If you can find a way for people to feel that series of emotions and thoughts and hit that follow button, you're good to go, because that's going to be the thing that makes them hit that follow button. But again, obsessively worrying about your art skills in and of themselves is going to prevent you from ever getting there. I also have a little bit of a hot take I wanted to put a little bit into this video here. I'll describe it a little bit more, but I really believe that anybody who puts on the front of their profile, don't copy, don't reference my artwork, don't take my style, none of this is allowed ever, is somebody that's probably suffering from this insecurity to a pretty significant level. I've never really seen any of the artists that I very, very much respect and admire present themselves in this way. And it honestly comes off as a bit childish because I'm not gonna lie to you, I've done all this stuff before. I think it was actually on DeviantArt, I remember posting, don't try to copy this artwork. I've put a really, really hard to find a watermark here, and I can reveal it if you try to repost it or post it on some sort of merch. Don't do it. Like, if that's the thing that people have to see, and they have to see all of your garish watermarks everywhere, that's how you're presenting yourself. I just don't see how you could expect to ever be as successful as some of the people that everyone admires, because they don't do that. It's like the whole King of the Jungle thing. A lion doesn't have to announce their presence and beat their chest to announce that. There's a crazy video on YouTube, multiple videos, of lions and other animals just walking towards the food, and the other animals just clear out because they know what's up. And I feel like us as artists, we don't exactly have to try to have that kind of Chad energy and aspire to have that with our work. But if we believed in the narrative and the value that's not, just skill level in our work, we would be less likely, I feel like, to be worried about these things. But I do understand that it's a growing pain. It's something that you eventually have to go through. And I don't want to come off as like criticizing every single young artist that's done that. I've done it myself. But I also want to be clear. I do see this as different from the whole don't repost my work. I definitely see that sentiment and have had my own thoughts about repost accounts and how they can be quite damaging depending on what your goals are on social media. But I will say this also starts to get into some of the interesting topics within AI and how that's kind of ripping through the art community right now. I have so many things to say. I plan to make a really long video on it because I just want to just ramble, but I think it'll be very interesting. So stay tuned for that. And if you want to share your ideas early in this comment section, please do. I'll also make a post soon on my community page because I really want to get all of your ideas and thoughts, or at least some of them, before I make the video. I want to make this clear. I'm not trying to be this superior person. I'm just sharing my own experiences and what I've seen after all this time. I have fallen victim to skill superiority complex, if you can call it something. I just give it that name. It's happened multiple times to where the most recently, it can really, really hurt you when you finally start getting around really high level artists and it's not so crazy for you to be able to talk to them or get feedback from them. I start to worry about that so much more. And now I'm trying to really reel back because the way my brain is set up is I already do care about all these tiny little details instead of seeing the big picture. And so now I realize that what people not just prefer, but they focus on without even thinking about it, what matters to them are the things that I'm not paying attention to. And they're the most important. So now I'm thinking about impact. Cleanliness is huge. Beauty, color, wow factor, key features, dynamism, the composition, the pose. These are things that people talk about when they compliment your work. These are things that are important in and out of the art industry. Cleanliness is huge. If your work is messy and scratchy, that's not a big deal. That's fine. That can be perfectly beautiful, but it's going to be very hard for you to be able to get a lot of illustration or high-end kind of studio jobs because they need things to be very clear. Clarity is so huge. In concept art, it's huge. In illustration, every single nitpick point is going to be addressed, and the art's going to be passed around and rack up potentially hundreds of hours. And when you're studying and you're studying and you're studying on art skill, you're going to be like me and wondering why didn't this amazing sketch I did do well on Instagram? Because people don't care. They can't really see that nuanced, delicate anatomy. They want to see a cool pose. They want to see it in color. They want to see it finished. That's what people want to see. And at a certain point, you have to focus on, okay, I need to do the things that people care about because I'm trying to make artwork to give to people that they can buy or at least can serve a purpose in a job. And that purpose is always going to be related to connecting to other people. It always sounds like a weird thing, like, oh, why should I care about other people? Art is for me, right? But ask yourself this. I've asked myself this, and it's really hard to answer. If there wasn't a single other person on the planet, would you still be creating artwork? What would it look like? And would you do it as often? I find myself, I would probably at least be making a lot less, or at least I'd be a lot less inspired.